Good morning, Mr. Gehring. Oh, hit the button when you're ready.
I would like to add a little bit on 4513.
Sure thing.
Just a few seconds. Good morning, Council. Thank you for your time. And Larry Gehring, Hilo. First of all, big kudos to the police department, to the Eagle Scout, and to the cheerleading team. Fantastic examples of what you can do, what can be done. I was a Cub Scout once, but I never got to be a Boy Scout. But anyhow, big kudos to that group, to the group of people and those who keep working, trying to excel. They deserve the they deserve all the funding they can get in lieu of the instead of the landfill studies that waste hundreds of thousands of dollars. Give it to the schools, you know. Also, kudos to Mr. Lincoln Ishida being appointed as the corporate counsel. Communication 106. I got a lot of problems with that one. Well, I got a lot of problems, but anyhow, Warren Lee. I have repeatedly asked him for a priority list for street repairs. Where's our tax money going? Where's the DMV money going that we respectfully pay? He cannot give me a priority list. He does not only not have a priority list, he doesn't have a criteria for a priority list. I think he's very ill-trained for this position. You know, he was a former executive of Helco, which did not give him any special qualities, insight, or visions to be effective as a public works administrator. And how did he ascend to this position? Brenda Ford once asked him at a meeting why work is not bid out if it's not being done by his department, or if his department is overloaded and cannot get it done. And he simply said, some of these things we like to keep in-house. Well, big whoopee deal. It's still not getting the projects done. And as an effective administrator, he should be bidding out these projects that are behind schedule. The state auditor 14 years ago warned about possible fraud and abuse of funds in the public works because of simply the size of its budget and lack of oversight. I doubt that this situation has changed any. So I would oppose Warren Lee's being appointed Public Works Administrator. Bill number 14 I got a problem with the collection of gas for the West Hawaii facility landfill. I've been harping about this for the East Hawaii landfill for 2 years, and I've met with people who are in the business of trapping methane gas and bottling it up and reselling it. And I've been harping about, you know, this started back in the days when I was an Iowa farmer, and we had piles of cow manure which emitted methane gas. Had I known about this back in those days, we might have been able to power someone at the house. Anyhow, fast forward, it can not only be done in West Hawaii, it can be done in East Hawaii. It's not that complicated. It's being done all over Ohio and Pennsylvania as we speak on a daily basis. And I've got information, contact information if anybody's interested. Bill 17. I get amused by this planning, design, and engineering of any project and the costs involved. And I understand there's going to be a cost, but I often wonder, is any of this ever audited, or do they just give them a blank check and say, here, go do some planning, engineering, and designing, okay? And nobody is accountable. I would like to see some, not only restraint on that, but some accountability. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Gehring. Okay, our next testifier here in Hilo is Mr. Reese, who'll be testifying on a number of items. Good morning, Mr. Reese.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, and aloha, County Council. I'm going to start today. I can lump Communications 104 to 109 together in one 3-minute slot, and might take a hair more than that, but hopefully not. Well, this morning, I think I wrote on the form you have here to testify that I'm representing myself, but I'd also like to think that today, in regards to these appointments, I'm representing the low men and women on the totem pole, you know. I think in America, the executive culture and whole concept is so overrated that we tend to bow down and call these people geniuses, you know, Bill Gates, all these other guys. We forget about how they built up, who was right there with them all along, who was there, you know, helping them every step of the way. I have nothing against any of the people here. They look like the same folks being recycled or reappointed to the job they're already running. I kind of think that Bob Fitzgerald is something of a martyr to my type of faith and religion in this aspect. That is that I think the top two people should move backwards and step down and either step out of the scene occasionally, maybe every 4 years, and allow new blood to come up and see what we get out of that. Most of these folks don't really need the money, man. I mean, you know, they're there. I just think the younger crowd below them are more hungry, more aggressive, more looking to do right by the people. So it's not a personal statement that any of them should take shame by. Just again, I'll give a nod to Bob Fitzgerald for moving the right direction and step out of there and let someone else move into that position, see what they can do. I also got to say, and I've never met an executive other than in sole proprietorship companies where you really need one singular head that usually is, you know, top-down type system works. I have never in my life met any executive anywhere, some very high-level folks that were friends of mine, parents and that weren't eminently replaceable. So again, I think this whole executive business is overblown in America. And I guess enough said on that. And order of resolutions, I'm going to go to Resolution 21. This is the eminent domain proceedings to acquire the expansion area at Hilo Lagoon Center over here for Department of Liquor Control. I did hear, I think it was Gerald Takasi said, they don't really need it. And he was being honest. But that does tend to offend Americans that do believe eminent domain should be last resort. Sad fact is that the courts have upheld counties, cities, and other municipality types doing this to facilitate a sale. Now, my main concern here is this. There still needs to be a public benefit. Otherwise, what you've got is you've got county attorneys setting up a situation where a private party benefits from the actions they're taking because of their position. It sounds like it's prevented by the ethics rules of our county. But if we get a public benefit out of it, that's great. So I've heard different aspects of this where they say, oh, well, it's going to be appraised value. Does the appraised value in this instance, will it take consideration that by using the eminent domain proceedings, we are saving the private sellers about $25,000 of attorney and clerical fees by the time they would do that whole redo the condominium regime, which would, my understanding is, would be required if you don't sell it through eminent domain proceedings. So in this resolution, is there any guarantee, is there any protection that the taxpayers of this county will actually benefit in some manner? In other words, will the price come down accordingly for the favor we are giving the private sellers? Also, is there any mention that there may be asbestos and construction material removals required? Again, there would be another need for an offset. So I'm going to read the note I wrote. Reso should have some guarantee that the people of the county will benefit to the tune of about $25,000. The appraisal and that the fake eminent domain method of sale benefits the sellers to the tune of about $25,000. There should be some balanced type of offset favoring the people of Hawaii County. I have no problem doing it with this eminent domain thing in light of how the courts have, you know, backslid against, you know, constitutional rights of the people of America. But we can remedy that. We can see to it that we do actually receive a benefit. Then I see no problem with it. Done on that one. Resolution 43, Mr. Chairman, this is the right thing to do. I absolutely support this. There's, especially in the case of recent passing of, you know, prominent members of the community, you know, heck, man, it's only right. So no harm, no foul by putting something of this nature on the agenda and speaking to it at the meeting. Let's see, Resolution 4513, urging the Hawaii State Legislature to pass Senate Bill 1 and 8 to effectively abolish the Public Land Development Corp. Support this all the way. PLDC bit too deep, too fast, in a desperate fashion, without enough public outreach as to scope and scale of desired public-private programs. Now think about it. If you're given a task to promote the PLDC, wouldn't you do a little, if you were a business, wouldn't you have some presentations to show the public? Say, here's exactly what we're talking about. We're not talking high-rise, you know, 20-story high-rises in the prime lands of, you know, Kaka'ako or anywhere else. We're talking about facilities that would benefit the entire community. So you would get some buy-in, but they didn't do that. They just jumped and they said, we want all these, we don't want county control, we want to be able to obviate any county control and get rid of that. So they really blew it. And while it's an important concept, I don't believe the desperate pleadings of DLNR that there's no other way they can do this from the method they presented, right? So repeal, start over, take it slower, use a little more wise reasoning, more public buy-in, show us what they're talking about. And I'm talking about conceptual drawings and certain areas they may be going after. They may have private parties interested in already. But there's just been way too little communication, meaningful communication to the very representatives, I mean to the people that the legislature represents. And we deserve that. So please support this as you have, and I thank you all for supporting it so far. Resolution 47, this is amending the rules of procedure and organization of the council by amending Rule 16 relating to order of business. It's regarding where the approval of minutes lies on your agenda. This is absolutely proper, and I'll give you an example. At the very first meeting, and this stuff is nobody's fault, you know, you're a fairly new council, new members, you're reappointing people in that. But as a matter of fact, the appointment of Mr. Ilagan was appointed, I have this recorded on this thing right here. He was appointed as Hawaii County Council Housing Committee Chair. Yesterday I heard Mr. Arnett succinctly tell you all there is no Hawaii County Housing Committee. So Mr. Ilagan, unfortunately, sir, you were appointed the chair of a committee that does not exist. So had the minutes been available for someone to speak on, they could have brought that up and said, you know, you need to redo that. That's all it is. It needs to be redone. At that meeting, it was corrected when Mr. Onishi was appointed vice chair. And Mr. Ilagan correctly restated the motion at that point with regards to Mr. Onishi. So probably next time you go into a committee on that or a housing agency, Mr. Onishi should chair it temporarily because he's legitimately there, and first order of business should be to redo that nomination. But to this wise move that you're doing here, sometimes the public does get interested in this stuff and actually review the minutes, so they'll do the work for you in a lot of cases. Moving on here. Bill 23, another good one, supported all the way. There's no need to have the penalty and interest currently equaling 22% for the first year on delinquent property tax. So this is somewhere where the county can give back a little bit to help people out that are truly struggling to make the payment, and especially when they've come in and started some kind of payment plan. So move in the right direction. And you know, as a side note, I do also appreciate there was all this talk on this council about how young everybody was and that, and I guess the older folks could consider yourselves good looking because maybe people estimate your age a little lower than it really is, yeah? But the point is that I've seen some wise reasoning and some good wisdom coming forth, so I hope people are paying attention to that. Bill 24, I'm opposing this, and the reason why is this. Even though this pretends to be a long-range view about trying to hold the open space lands with a new covenant that would be put in there saying this land easement was acquired with monies from the public access, or the PONC fund, it shall be held in perpetuity for the use and enjoyment of the people of Hawaii County and may not be sold, mortgaged, traded, or transferred in any way. That is just incredibly overbroad and short-sighted. What if you have a private landowner adjacent to an existing PONC property, and he says, you know, I kind of want to give this to you, but I got to convince my board, right? And what we need is, we need a small easement on the adjacent property if we do that, right? To get to a back piece. I'm trying to present, there are situations where this is going to be extremely problematic, and I don't see the real need for it. I also see it as a bit of this council, if you pass this, trying to tie the hands of future councils. You're not appreciating the representative process and the voting process that the people won't vote idiots in that would do something ignorant and defeat the whole purpose of the public access, the open space fund. So this is too much. I think it's going to limit you, and you're talking about something that's permanent. Yeah, I think it might be illegal if it tries to tie the hands of future councils in that respect. The other thing is this, Public Law 150, when my Congress people passed the apology resolution to the Hawaiian Nation, they didn't have their fingers behind their back. It wasn't kid stuff. They didn't say, nah, we're just kidding. And everybody understands, if you're going to build a nation or rebuild a nation, reinstate a nation, or continue a nation and acquire land base, there are certain lands that maybe this new nation coming forth, I shouldn't say new nation, this new political event that may happen in our near future, you would be tying the hands of being able to trade properties that would benefit both. Why? That just, to me, is so short-sighted. It actually turns my stomach a little bit. I'm physically feeling sick thinking about that whole premise right now. It looks like greed, and it's being pretended as something else. I don't dig that at all. And now the last thing, sir, and thank everybody for your patience, council members and public. Communication 64, 65, and 78. However, maybe it's Deputy Corporation Counsel Kimberly K. Ongai. This is your executive session referrals. I've been squawking about not having enough information. I'm saying this is exactly what I've been asking for. You don't betray any liability, any privacy issues. It's absolutely correct. It gives me all the information I need to know about if I want to come down here and research these cases further. So my hat's off to y'all. Thank you very much to whoever actually accomplished that. Thank you so much. And I thank you all. Have a good day.
Thank you, Mr. Reese. Okay, our next two testifiers here in Hilo is Robert Green and Rochelle Moore. If I could ask both of them to please come to the table. Mr. Green will be going first. He'll be testifying on bills 19, 20, and 21, providing comment representing himself.
Good morning.
Morning, Mr. Green.
Can everybody hear me fine?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Robert Green, and I was born in Hawaii. Born in Hilo. I grew up in Puna and in Mountain View, and now I live in Waikoloa. So my mother was born in Waimea. My grandmother was born in Lapahoihoi. So my roots kind of go all the way back to the Hawaiian Kingdom. So we've been here in Hawaii for a long time. Now, I have an advanced degree in engineering and MBA, and I've had work experience in advanced planning and engineering and in management of information systems. So I think I'm qualified to review some of this and make some judgments. Now, the first thing, looking at the ordinance bill number 19, I started looking at things and I said, well, hey, the azimuth, you start giving directions and establishing things, and normally azimuths are from north. Okay, and then we work around clockwise. Now, I look at this bill and it's from the south. So now you're taking azimuths from the south to give the property boundaries, but on the map, you give reference to the north. So when I first looked at it, kind of bothered me because, and I think it's great. I'm not against that. I just think that in providing information for you and everybody else, that probably someone could use some different standards. The next thing I'd like to talk about is, why am I here in Hilo? Because we're talking about Bill 19, 20, and 21. It's in Waikoloa, and then the county has a fantastic building or civic center in Kona. And so my question is, why are we having to come all the way from Hilo to personally make a present or testify to you personally, as opposed to going to Kona, where the people are there and where the location of the bill is there, and you will be there. So I would suggest that bills that are directing in the west side be basically considered on the west side, so people like myself could testify a lot easier than coming all the way to Hilo. Like if Puna needs something, do you go to Kona to get testimony? So your people from Puna? I think not. I think that's something that we should be considering. And again, on that 19, I say it's great. I think we should convert. But then I get to 20, and I have some 20 give me some some real concerns. You know, what we have is a bill that you're going to make a decision on now, and it gives you a road, a picture on Amendment Exhibit A, amendment to the zoning code, and so here we are. You're looking at this area, but if you start looking at most of the roads with the traffic is not even listed for you. You know, I live in Waikoloa, and as I'm coming up Paniolo Avenue, the first thing I have is on the right I have a couple of driveways. You show one street on the left. I come back there and I get to Luakula on the right, and there's a condominium on the left. Your road is not shown there. Then I pass Luakula and I look to the right, and the right is the busiest intersection and the whole thing, and it's not even shown on this map. We proceed up there, and now we come to a new suggested road on the right, and then on the left we have another road into the shopping center, and then we get to the intersection, and we then have more exits and exits that are not shown. So to me, it's very. I'm looking, try to put myself in your position, and it's hard for me to see how you can make a decision, because you know you've all looked at, and I went to the South Plains CDP, and I expanded it, and this little white, you're talking about half of this little white dot. That's the development. But if you look at the road that we're talking about, that road serves a whole lot of area. You know, at the end of the road of Paniolo, you're going to have Waikoloa Heights, 3,200 houses. Then come next you get to the Kamakuanui, which you have 1,200 houses. And then if you look at I looked at the plan here, and I see that we're going to have almost 7,000 to 8,000 new homes in the Waikoloa area. That's about 17,000 people in that area, and you're basically are making a judgment on this that is going to affect all of this traffic for all of this time. You know, as far as I can see, that's one of the major problems we have. I think that I recommended that basically we postpone a decision on this bill until we can fully analyze the long-term impact of the traffic. Because we are there. We got Ainalea, I never mentioned that, 3,000 houses. Puoko 1010 or 1010 Puoko, another couple 150 houses. So, you know, we're growing and we're growing fast, and we have one intersection there that is the center of all of this. And I think we really need to take a look at that and have the applicant come through, and before we vote on, before you decide, I think we should get all the information that we need to make a long-term decision, and that's what's going to affect us with. Now, you know, it's a hard decision, but I would suggest that, you know, a minimum of 30 foot be provided so we can expand the road. But and also the ordinance says, okay, you're going to develop Highland Shopping Center, but then you're responsible for the intersection or the roundabout, along with these two other people that aren't even on the bill. Yeah, I think that this is something that should be coordinated. If we're gonna hold someone responsible for creating an intersection to have one of the major impacts on going to be one of the busiest sections in town, in the island, except for Puna, you need to have that information. And I think, my recommendation is hold off until we can get a good study on the roads. Now, I'm not against the development. I think it's great. But I think if we plan now to solve today's problem, but we can completely look for future of the area. Then the next bill is pretty much just the same thing. I think we need to kind of propose that until we can find out what the road is concerned with. You know, they're talking about giving 10 foot on Waikolo Road. You know, I think that's not enough if we're going to expand the road to as large a traffic or buildup, a potential buildup in the Waikolo area. I think the before you can consider this, I think the residents of Waikoloa should be able to see exactly what they're planning. You know, the only information I have is not on this bill, but is a presentation that we gave to the planning committee gave to the, and that to me was not adequate. We did not have a major thoroughfare through the area. We're going to have 400 houses. We're going to have 1,000 people living there, and everything I see is side roads. You know, in Waikoloa Village itself, you'll find Paniolo Avenue goes through the village, and it has no private houses or no garages abut to it. We have Hulu in Waikoloa Village that has no houses in the butt. But I look at this area here and I don't see it. I think we need to be concerned that when they build a development that they have a major thoroughfare that they can use for quick egress. And as I looked at both of the egress area is right in a potential fire zone because the wind grows there. Now, you all know about the new state highway that's going to go from Mamalo Highway to the Waikoloa Road. That's the bypass that goes up from. Let's see. Let me orient myself from Mamalo Highway. It goes all the way through to Waikoloa Drive. Now we're trying to get alternate 5 that would touch Waikoloa Road, and I wish you'd all support that. But if you look at the future development,
Mr. Green, you have about 30 seconds left.
Okay, if you look at the future development, we probably should look at the possibility of having another access road out of there. So when the fire comes from one area, we can escape another. I recommend that basically we put that aside until these road problems could be solved.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your attention. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your testimony. Next testifier is Ms. Moore. She'll be testifying on Bill 20. You have 3 minutes, but if you'd like to testify on the other items, you would have an additional 3.
I'll be short.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Ms. Moore. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm from Waikoloa, and on my form I said I represented myself. Well, not really. I represent, or I'm part of, an informal group of Waikoloa residents, and we meet weekly for coffee at the Kaukai Depot, and we discuss issues from local, state, and national level. And we have breakfast. So the next time you hold your meeting in Waikoloa, or in Kona, please come to Waikoloa, come to Kaukai, and we'll buy you coffee. But I'm here to speak in generalities. The main goal for Waikoloa development, as well as anything else, is to balance economic development, quality of life, the environment, and providing opportunities for jobs. I don't think that balance can be achieved without a commitment to strategic planning. I don't see that. I don't see any elements. Bob pointed out details of which I can take to a higher level as an example of the fact that we don't seem to have a holistic approach. And we're going to run into a lot of problems with these well-meaning economic development projects. I therefore recommend that nothing be approved until we can get some strategic planning elements in place whereby we, the residents, get an idea that the entire picture from present to 10 to 15 years of economic development seems to be able to handle not only what will happen, but given the financial environment of the country as a whole, what kinds of problems we may face and what options will you have so that these developments don't come to an end or they don't get flipped and we have all sorts of other problems. So basically that's all I have to say, is that approval be postponed until we can see some critical elements of a short-term integrating with a long-term strategic plan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Moore. Okay, our next two testifiers here in Hilo is Barbara Belovich and Chris Cutler. If I could ask both to please come to the table. We'll start with Ms. Belovich, who will be...
I've read the rules and I'm not going to get raucous.
Thank you. I believe you'll be testifying on Bill 19. Please start when you're ready.
Actually, thank you for allowing me to speak. Actually, it's 19, 20, 21, anything Waikoloa. I'm very general. Right now, we have a rate increase of 39%, I believe it is, in front of the Public Utility Commission, and a sewer increase that's higher. And in their paperwork with these increases, they're saying as soon as they get this through, they're going to ask for another one to pay for a well that we really don't need, or most of us feel we don't need. So there's a little battle going on with the Public Utilities Commission, and much of the town believes, and we are investigating, that these large increases are due to the water company's anticipated expansion, okay? And in which case, we don't want to pay for it. So anything that you approve beyond giving people more distance in this economic environment, more time to build, you know, to plan. I urge approval of nothing until we have the water solution taken care of a little bit, so we can charge proper mitigating fees for builders. I hope I just made sense to everybody. It speaks in the proposal about mitigating fees. And certainly if they need to pay more mitigating fees due to the water situation, before any approval happens, that needs to be addressed, because the rest of us don't want to bear the brunt of new developments. Right? And obviously that's in county planning, because I did read some to that effect in these 19, 20, and 21. And the second thing was, I have lived in Waikoloa for 16 years, and there's always a planned egress in case of emergency, such as fires and disasters. And every time we have one, I find a policeman directing traffic and say, "Where's the alternate road?" And they go, "There's no alternate road. What are you talking about?" At one point, it was a fence when somebody had a key, but nobody knew who had the key. I'm not sure anybody had a key. There's still nothing after 16 years. And it's been talked about the entire time. It's not a new concept. We need another way out of town. And I just can't see any kind of development going on until we have a proper exit from town. I don't want one more person moving in until we have a proper exit. I thank you for your time, and I hope you do come over.
Thank you.
Have some meetings over there.
We do. Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Okay, Ms. Cutler, you're testifying on Bills 20 and 21. Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, I'm Chris Cutler. I'm a homeowner in Waikoloa Village, and I'm also a member of the Waikoloa Youth Activities Steering Committee. These proposed changes to the zoning bring some concerns, and I just would like to voice my concerns. This is about Waikoloa Mauka first. The current location of the planned park requires youth from this subdivision to cross Waikoloa Road. This will cause an increase in pedestrian traffic And given that the county bus service moved the bus stop because they thought it was too dangerous for young people to have to cross the road to catch the bus, I'm concerned about the young people, lots more young people now crossing the road to get to this proposed park. I believe they should put the park in the subdivision and not across the road. Also, given that the county cannot afford to maintain existing parks, let alone build new ones, I'm just wondering where we're going to get the money to build the park. As far as I know, they're just donating the land. They're not going to actually put in the infrastructure. I could be wrong. Please ensure that this subdivision is not another large cul-de-sac. As the other people have mentioned, in the case of a fire, there's not sufficient access to evacuate the village as it is. If you add 400 more homes trying to get up or down Waikoloa Road, it's just not feasible. There must be another access road that perhaps goes up to the Mamalahoa, and this access road must be built at the start, or they must put up a bond or something for it so that if they stop building in the future and go away, we aren't stuck without a road. All verbal conditions should be put in writing. For example, they promised that they would not build a golf course, and yet that golf course still remains in their plans. If they should sell that property to another party, how do we know that they will stick to those verbal promises? In regards to Riverbend, ingress from Paniolo Road into the existing shopping center is dangerous because it's very hard to see if cars are coming down the road when you're pulling out. Now we're going to add a large amount of traffic into to build the shopping center, and I hope that we can ensure that we don't have a problem of the construction traffic pulling in and out of Paniolo Road. I'm concerned that whether there'll be safe ways for pedestrians to cross the large parking lot, especially if there's going to be a park in that area. And I'm concerned about a strip mall appearance that will change the visual nature of the village in contrast to the Hawaiian architecture of the current shopping center. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for your testimony. Okay, our next two testifiers is Michelle Kerr, testifying on Bills 20 and 21, and she'll be followed by Bobby Jean Leadhead Todd. Good morning, Ms. Kerr.
Hi. This is the first time I've testified before the council, but I don't believe it will be the last. I've been invigorated recently, as I hope other people have, as we lose touch with our government. Certainly on a national level, I don't think there's any input that we have that makes any difference. They're there to do what they plan to do, whether we like it or not. Pass the bill before you read it, etc. Pretty much the same on the state level, particularly being neighbor island residents. And so our last resort of contact with the lawmakers and the decision makers is with the county council. So therefore, I'm here today for the first time, and as I said, it probably won't be the last. Particularly, I want to talk about the two bills, Waikoloa Mauka and Riverbend. As everyone else has mentioned, I'm concerned about the traffic there. If you don't know that intersection in Waikoloa, it is very, very busy. It's not a flat road, so you have traffic coming into the village, down the hill very fast, and immediately there's a shopping center on the left, the existing shopping center. There's a condominium on the right, and traffic coming up the hill, kids crossing the street, bicycles. It's very, very busy already, and the planned road or access there coming off Paniolo is not going to work. It's going to be very, very dangerous. So that needs to be changed or improved upon. The parkland, well, I think that goes with the Mauka, Waikoloa Mauka LLC. But So let's skip to the water. I'm concerned about the water as well. We've had rate increases, proposed rate increases, huge rate increases, not baby steps, and I think that came about because the water company is now owned by a California company. California likes to raise prices and fees every time they meet, and as a result, they're going broke. They are broke. So my question is, where's the water going to come from? If it's going to come from the same sources that the Waikoloa Village Association, they need to pay to develop that water source, not expect the existing homeowners to pay for that water source. And the fair share formulas that are normally tacked on to these type of developments really don't apply. It should be above and beyond that formula. Because they're taking an existing water system that's already pretty much maxed out and adding a lot of usage to it. And I have to question why they're even building the project, the commercial project. I mean, we do need services, but why aren't those services filled up in the existing shopping center? You've got numerous empty spaces over there that have been empty for a long time. Not just 12 months or 2 or 3 months, or they've been empty a long time. Once the down zoning, if that's the proper term, or the amendment to the boundary is approved by the council, you only have to look back and see that these developers oftentimes flip the property, sell it to somebody else, and the new guy comes in and then he tries to, he'll look at the situation and he'll say, well, we need to do this, we need to do that, we got to make this bottom line, so we can't live with these conditions. And then they come back when there's a whole new council here, or several new council members, and they plead poor, they plead bad economy, and they ask for extensions for this and waivers of that. And we've seen it time and time again. Ainalea is a good example. I know local businessmen, electricians, other people that have worked on that project have put themselves out without being paid, and the property's been held up in limbo because the new owners come back and say, well, we haven't been able to get our financing together. And these guys do this because they want to keep their employees on. They want to be able to have work for them, but they haven't been paid for it yet. And I've seen this happen. I've been on this island over 30 years. I've seen it happen again and again and again. And to me, it's not responsible for the county council, who's supposed to represent us, to continually, I don't know if rubber stamp, that's probably not fair. But you don't represent the developer, you represent us. We pay you guys. And you need to look out for us. You need to be asking the hard questions that aren't in these development plans, as people have pointed out in the roads. And if that means coming to Waikoloa and looking at the map and comparing it to what's there, and finding out that, gee, this doesn't really make sense, and asking the hard questions. That's what we're asking you to do. And I would say the same thing about both of these projects. A group of us got together, carpooled, and came from the west side today to talk to you about these developments that are in our backyard and that it will affect us going forward, affect the kids in the area, affect the businesses in the area. And we felt it was so important that we were willing to drive to Hilo. But it's not really very convenient, and I don't know why these things can't be docketed to a meeting that's going to be held in Kona. And I would request that you do that in the future. It doesn't have to be discussed today if it can be discussed at the next meeting in Kona. And I would respectfully request all council members' attendance at all the meetings. Because again, you represent us. If you're not there, you can't represent us. If you're not there, you're reading the developer-issued plans, which we're pointing out are incomplete. So that's all I have to say on Riverbend. Many of the concerns are the same for the other project, though. again, the property turning hands, new buyers coming in, and then later down the road wanting to change the rules. Any agreements verbally made have to run with the property in perpetuity. They can't come in and say, well, we don't like this doesn't work for our project, we can't get the money, if we have to do this, we won't be able to build the affordable housing section, blah, blah, blah. So therefore we want dispensation. And the planning department and the county council, I know, is always looking for, we need jobs, we need to create jobs, we need to pass this thing. But you have to look beyond the jobs that are going to be created. Construction jobs come and go, and a project is built and then they're gone again. You have to look beyond at how it's going to affect the residents and the businesses in those areas. I don't understand why they're building more commercial when there's commercial there that's been empty. And the same thing with houses. The foreclosures in Waikoloa, you can drive down the street and you can see houses that are abandoned, the yards are not being cared for, they're trashy, people, use them for illicit purposes. And to build more houses, I don't know who's going to buy them. I know you have to plan ahead, but they seem to be willing to plan ahead on a lot of these developments in certain aspects and not plan ahead on the impacts. The park facilities for the Mauka LLC project need to be in that project. The land that they've donated for it, to my understanding, is in the flood zone. And they've offered up some land that's probably fairly useless to them anyway, and given it to the county for a proposed park. Everyone knows the county can't maintain the parks they have, so the likelihood of the park being built, particularly when it's in a flood zone or a hard-to-build property, is little and none. The developer, that should be...
You have about 30 seconds.
Does that count both projects I'm talking about?
I actually counted for 3, so you had a total of 9 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
The developer should take on those expenses, and the park should be in the community. The last thing I'll say is that there should be no blanket permitting of residential units beyond what's going to be built in that phase, because it takes so long to build these things out. If you give them permits in the beginning, and then several years later they're doing permits for the next phase, conditions have changed, building codes may have changed, et cetera, so the permit should only be issued for the phase that's being built at that time. And I thank you for listening, and as I said, you will see me again.
Thank you for your testimony. Yeah, for the public's information, we do have our meetings both in Hilo and Kona, so we alternate between sites. So this bill, well, depending on what happens, will be heard back in Kona in our next meeting. So you have an opportunity to testify either in person, which is preferred, or by video. But we will be going to Kona for the next meeting, depending upon what happens today. Thank you. Okay, council members, do we need a break? Are we good? Oh, no, break? Okay, why don't we take a 10-minute recess? Okay, thank you. Recess. Testifying on Bill 24. Ask her to come to the table, and she'll be followed by Joyce Folena. If Joyce could come up too. I saw Joyce earlier. If not, Mr. Smith, you can come up in her place, and we can take her when she comes. Okay, Ms. Lita Todd, please go ahead.
Just wanted to make some comments on Bill 24. I recognize that the language is basically tracking what was approved in the charter, which goes to, I guess, some of the issues I have with stuff that we sometimes put up for a vote without fully explaining or fully vetting the impacts. The biggest concerns I have, and one, it's in the charter, so that language in stone, is that the way the language is written, if the national park, let's say Honuapu, the National Park Service, was coming along and wanted us to transfer our interest in Honuapu to the National Park Service. They were going to take over the maintenance and control and the expenditures for it. That would be something that I would think people would be in favor of. The language of the charter, the language of this, says you can't transfer it. What if you've acquired land that's along a Konepule Highway that goes down to the ocean? State Highways comes along and says, we need to widen the state highway, so we need a piece of the land, and the piece that they want doesn't impact the archaeology, it doesn't impact some of the other things. So in many ways, the charter amendment I think, tied the hands when it's for a public purpose. It doesn't mean that the state's hands are tied. The state can do eminent domain against us. I'm not entirely sure if the National Park Service would ever enter into some type of eminent domain. But there are other situations in which you might want to hand it over to something like the Nature Conservancy, because it depends on what you've acquired the property for. And so I'm saying that while this is consistent with the charter, you may want to take a look at that and see whether you want to amend language so that when it's for a public purpose or when it's for another government entity, you want to leave that freedom to do that. Because let's be honest, if we acquire land because it's watershed, the best people to take care of that is DLNR, not us. If you acquire property because there are endangered plants or critical habitat or something, the best people might be Nature Conservancy, or it might be part of becoming the Hakalau Conservancy. We might not be the best entity to manage that land. And I'm not talking about putting something that allows you to just sell it to anybody. I'm talking about when it's for a public purpose to another government entity or something like a nonprofit that may actually manage that land better, that I think the county needs to have that kind of flexibility. And so just that comment that you might want to take a look at the language of the charter and see whether you want to put something in there that allows you when there's a better steward available than the county. And it's just that we're acquiring a lot of land, acquiring hundreds of acres of land, and I'm not sure in many cases whether we're the best steward of some of the lands that we're acquiring, or whether it should become part of a state historic park, whether it should be part of a state watershed. And in some cases, some of the state lands are probably better managed by us, because I'm trying to get some of their land handed over to us.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Ms. Lita Todd. Okay, our next testifier is Joyce Falena. She'll be testifying on Resolution 45-13. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman Yoshimoto and all members of the County Council. Where's Mr. Onishi?
He was here prior to break, Ms. Falena. I don't know where he is.
He's getting a reprimand, right?
We'll have staff contact him. We'll have staff. Would you like to wait till we summon him?
No, sir. It's okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure he can hear me wherever he is in the building, I'm sure. We would prefer all council members be present for all testimony, barring any unforeseen necessity. I'm speaking in support of Resolution 45-13 in its present form. There is a lot of activity and a lot of yes and a lot of no concerning the Public Land Development Corporation. I am firmly against the existence of the Public Land Development Corporation. And I do understand that it is a state-level matter. I do also support and encourage my Puna representatives, both of them, Districts 4 and 5, Mr. Ilagan and Mr. Kern, to become proactive in all future, present and future state issues wherein the county council has a voice to recommend, to make the feelings and the attitudes of the people of the county of Hawaii formally and very distinctly known to the state representatives. We have reciprocity. County has reciprocity with state. State has reciprocity with county. We aren't isolated from each other. We have to work together. So I thank Miss Margaret Willey, Councilwoman Willey, for presenting this resolution. And go for it. Please approve it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Falena. Our next testifier is Gregory Smith, also testifying on Resolution 45-13. Good morning.
Good morning, and welcome back, Mrs. Poindexter. As far as this goes, I think it's a no-brainer on the county's part, mostly because basically that act that we are trying to repeal at the state level needs the support of this county council again. The new council is very new, with 6 new members. I would also want to encourage, again, my council representatives from Puna, as well as the rest of the council members here, to stoutly defend home rule, because this is exactly what this is about. I get, as you notice throughout the state, and on issues particularly close to home, that the people are very much disgusted with government at all levels, mostly because government seems not to be listening to us, even though we elect you guys to work for us. And basically, I would have thought at the state level and here at the county level, people would, and in power of government, would quit trying to fast-track business over ecology and the vision that the local population has for their communities. I don't need, personally, I'm speaking personally for myself, but also I think for a good many people in my community, I don't need a group of politicians, bureaucrats, 290 miles away telling me what's going to go happen in my community. That is aggravating to me to a great extent. And just as a heads up, regardless of, to you, the council, regardless of what happens at the state level, there are going to be bills coming through this council that are designed, that we the people designed, trying to protect our lives, our health, and our safety, and the values of our property. Just as a heads up to you guys. One thing is geothermal. That's not going to go away until some government agency, whether at the county level, or the state, or the federal level, is going to protect our health, our lives, and our safety, period. And it, and as far as, I know I'm straying a little bit, but this is again home rule. We don't have a vision of turning, for instance, in geothermal, turning our district into an industrial park for anybody. Not Honolulu, not Maui, anybody. I would hope that the council would get proactive, particularly our representatives from Puna, to protect the people's lives, health, and safety. Way down the list of priorities in any government, in my opinion, is the promotion of business. That's good. We need to have that. We have to work together. But beyond that, remember who you work for. You work for us. Mahalo.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Smith. Our next testifier is Kerry Marks, testifying on 4513, the resolution, and Bill 24.
Good morning, Council.
Morning.
I think we start with the PLDC. Resolution 4513 urges the House to hear a couple two bills. That's awesome. We all support the repeal of the PLDC. We just heard about this a month ago, and all 9 of you stated for the record that you also support a repeal of the PLDC. I am here to hold you to that today. Okay? The 2 bills that are on this resolution, SB1 and HB8, were probably agendized when this was written, and the next day they were deleted from the agenda. So we are suffering again from the effects of cronyism and hacks and political games being played at all levels. So on SB1, that was introduced on the 17th. It was scheduled on the 28th and deleted from the schedule on the 29th. It has not been rescheduled. In fact, I looked at all 27 bills this morning, and now remind you, this is just the 27 bills that speak to repealing or fixing the PLDC. That doesn't even include all the brand new PLDCs, like the Banyan Drive PLDC that they're putting out, that they swear is not a PLDC. But it is a 5-member board making decisions for y'all. Okay, so there are 27 PLDC bills. There are at least 27 other ones that are just as bad. Some of these bills cross out the name Public Land Development Corporation and write in another name. One of them is Public-Private Partnership Corporation. That's offensive. One of them concentrates on school lands. One of them, several of them, many of them, Concentrate on school lands. A month ago when we all sat here, we heard about an awesome idea to put 7-Elevens on unused school lands. The next day, those bills hit the floor. Those are for real. He wasn't kidding. Please check on those too. SB 1 is a Senate bill. The Water and Land Committee, chaired by Malama Solomon, will not hear any repeal PLDC bills. I saw that on my Twitter feed that Laura Thielen, one of the Thielens, posted that on her Facebook wall. That's the only confirmation I have. Other than that, I haven't been able to find any video or actual fact that that's what the deal is. But the deal is everything's stalled right now. Nothing's being heard. My 3 minutes are up. You get it. Please check the websites. We're watching you. Lots of people are watching you. The Sierra Club, Hawaii's 1,000 Friends, Occupy Hilo, Occupy Hawaii, Occupy Everywhere. We're not going to let this go, and we're not going to let you change the name. And I'm so cold. I'm trembling, so I skipped the rest of them. You get it. Mahalo.
Thank you, Ms. Marks. Okay, I believe that concludes our public testimony portion. Is there anyone else present on any of the sites that wishes to testify on items on the agenda? If I don't hear anything, we're going to proceed. Michael?
Yes, sir. Mr. Patrici would like to speak on bills, or I think communication bills 20 and 21, if he can.
Sure. Please go ahead.
Aloha. After listening to the testimony from the Waikoloa residents, I was thought that I'd like to at least talk in support of them. It was a deja vu experience for me to hear how residents of communities feel disenfranchised from the process and from the way government is, and that's been my experience. I've been traveling and meeting with groups all across the state, and everywhere I go, I still feel that. And I hear that. So I just want to say, please listen to them, and please listen to the rest of us. We are trying to participate and get back involved with the government. The woman that has never testified before particularly brought that home to me, because I'm seeing that everywhere. And that's why you see so many people, when we ask people to come and testify, we want a voice, and we feel like the developers somehow have gotten control of the situation, and they are rated as more important than the people in the areas where they're doing these developments, and we need to change that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Patrici. Okay, any other testifiers? If not, we're going to proceed with our agenda. Mr. Clerk, if you would start with communications.
Communication 104, appointment of Nancy E. Crawford as Finance Director from Mayor Billy Canoy, dated January 9th.